The stock market gets a case of the jitters ahead of today's jobs report. In today's cover story, fast food protesters go to extremes out on the streets. Plus, how Tesla's new battery factory has the state of Nevada shifting gears. And in Traders Unplugged, a rare investment gets a twist. First Business starts now.
You're watching First Business. Financial news, analysis, and today's investment ideas.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Angela Miles. It's Friday, September the 5th. In today's First Look, jobs top the agenda for today's trading session. The market expects the August employment report will show 223,000 jobs were added to payrolls last month, and the unemployment rate ticked down to 6.1%. Yesterday, the Dow and S&P touched new highs following a stimulus package whammy by the ECB, but then stocks and commodities sold off ahead of the August labor report. Well, there was local motion after hours in its first earnings since the IPO. El Pollo Loco shares rallied 5% in heavy volume after the Mexican restaurant chain topped earnings estimates. And in politics and money, ex-Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell was found guilty of corruption. He says he did nothing illegal. Also, federal officials say a hacker broke into part of the healthcare.gov insurance enrollment website, but consumers' personal data was not stolen. Trader Daniel Stessich of Athena Advisors is with us on this Jobs Friday. He has his eyes all over the stock market as well as the commodities. Good to have you on the show today. And how are you positioning?
Well, you know what? I think I told you last time I was on. I'm going to stay steady as she goes. We're at record highs. I'm not going to be adding to positions, but I'm not going to be taking them away. The economic numbers we have had this week have been great. Both ISM figures terrific. I think going forward, that'll be good. We had a little bit of a misstep late yesterday afternoon with the Cleveland Fed President, Loretta Mester, saying that she sees things going up in the future, and there was a little worry about rate hikes.
That was a market mover, Daniel. Along with that ECB surprise, the interest rates cut. There's a new bond buying program, almost a bazooka. Remember those days?
Yeah, exactly. And you know, the funny thing about this is they were wondering how it's going to affect our market, and initially it affected it real well, which makes sense because if they're adding liquidity, are they going to necessarily invest in the European stock market? Not always. It could go to our market. So I think that helped the early rally of yesterday.
What are some of your favorite sectors out there, Daniel?
Well, you know what? Everything seems to be pretty well valued. So the one I'd take a look at would be the materials. Some of those haven't made it up because they're not feeling confident enough that the global growth story is there. Look at some areas in there. You'll find some bargains. I think you can do well with that.
Daniel, have a great Friday.
Thank you very much.
Chuck Kopla reports now on Americans fighting for higher wages. Good morning, Chuck.
In today's cover story, the nationwide effort to raise the minimum wage to as high as $15 an hour stopped traffic in New York, Chicago, Detroit, and in several other cities. In suburban Chicago, 50 protesters were arrested for blocking traffic, 42 in Detroit, 21 more in New York, as hundreds of McDonald's workers nationwide aimed their fight for $15 an hour toward the global leader in fast food sales.
We're just here spreading our word peacefully, non-violently, that we're asking for $15 in the union. We work for a multi-billion-dollar corporation that pays us poverty wages.
After nearly 2 years of protests, underwritten with more than $10 million by the Service Employees International Union, this was the first widespread use of civil disobedience. Motorists were the first ones inconvenienced.
They could have done it somewhere else.
I don't see that to be very, effective.
Rob Green, executive director of the National Council of Chain Restaurants, said encouraging activities that put both restaurant workers and their customers in danger of physical harm is not only irresponsible, it's disturbing. However, the congressman who represents the district where the protest in suburban Chicago happened disagreed.
You try to work at McDonald's for 40 hours a week and do 10 hours of overtime and see if you can pay the rent.
This McDonald's in suburban Chicago was open during the protest. Labor specialists see a trend slowly turning toward the protesters' favor, but not yet completed.
We've seen a lot of county and state laws change across the country. We have 26 states with higher minimum wage than the federal, and that is just going to escalate. And a lot of that is due to the national conversation started by these workers.
Some companies are voluntarily raising some salaries.
McDonald's issued this statement saying, "We believe that any minimum wage increase should be implemented over time so that the impact on owners of small and medium-sized businesses, the majority of our restaurants, is manageable." The statement went on to say that the impact of the Affordable Care Act should also be considered.
Also on this Jobs Friday, fewer layoffs are coming from corporate America. Outplacement firm Challenger Gray and Christmas reports employers said in August they plan to pink slip 40,000 workers. That is down 21% from a year ago. It's also the fourth month this year the total was lower than last year. The largest number of job cuts came from the tech industry. 6,000 alone were from Cisco Systems.
Jobs are rolling into Nevada. The state just scored Tesla's new Gigafactory. The electric car maker plans to build its $5 billion battery factory near Reno, creating 6,500 jobs. The Gigafactory is expected to help Tesla eventually become the world's top provider of lithium-ion batteries. It also gives Nevada new ways to diversify its economy.
With this, we'll be moving much more into an advanced manufacturing stage and then tie in with technology-related companies that do exist again, right next door to us in California.
That was Dean Moser of the University of Nevada. The state beat out California, Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico for the factory. Moser says in Nevada, Tesla has access to raw materials and skilled workers. Reports say state lawmakers will meet next week to decide on tax incentives.
Boeing predicts demand for its jets will be sky high during the next 20 years as business becomes more dynamic in the Chinese travel industry. The jet maker projects it will sell at least 6,000 aircraft to the region by the year 2033. Jet sales could reach $870 billion. It could push Boeing into the top spot among jet producers.
A federal judge rules BP was grossly negligent in the 2010 Deepwater Horizon oil spill. It means BP could be on the hook for up to $18 billion under the U.S. Clean Water Act. That's on top of the $43 billion that the oil giant expects to pay for the cleanup of oil that gushed into the Gulf of Mexico for 87 days. According to the judge, BP was reckless.
It was a scathing ruling, but it really confirms what we've known all along, which was that BP put profits over safety, and their conduct was so risky and so reckless that it constituted gross negligence and willful misconduct.
BP strongly disagrees with the decision and plans an appeal. BP shares sank almost 6% Thursday.
Home Depot CEO is out with his first public comments about a possible breach at the stores. Frank Blake tells investors the home improvement retailer found out about the possible data theft early Tuesday. Customers will not be liable for any potential fraudulent charges, but he's not admitting to a cybersecurity attack. Krebs on Security believes the breach affects almost all Home Depot stores. Home Depot shares regained 1% yesterday. A spokeswoman for the retailer says it's working with security firms, including Symantec.
Apple is facing more labor accusations from China. Workers at Apple supplier Catcher Technology, which makes parts for iPads, are made to work excessive overtime and handle toxic chemicals without proper protective clothing. That's according to a report by Green America. The company denies the claims and says Apple is committed to ensuring safe and fair working conditions for everyone in our supply chain.
3D printing is rapidly evolving. Prices are dropping as companies race to take 3D mainstream. Autodesk, Amazon, Home Depot, GE, and MakerBot, owned by Stratasys, are considered some of the top players. Tech journalist TJ McHugh says 3D printing is becoming less expensive and more user-friendly.
3D printers are getting as easy to use as a LaserJet or an inkjet printer. I think the barrier is you and me just deciding, hey, we want to give it a try. There's a little bit of a learning curve, but not much. And it's accessible and freely available for all of us.
3D printing is also space-bound. NASA will send the first ever printer for a test run on its orbiting lab later this month.
Mobileye's hot streak is slowing after a blockbuster first month of public trading. Q2 earnings came in at 5 cents a share, just a penny above expectations. But even with the lower than expected results, analysts say shares could hit $100 within the year. Shares declined 3% to $45 Thursday.
Retail stocks are rocking to a record. Yesterday, the Spider S&P Retail Exchange Traded Fund hit an all-time intraday high. MarketWatch.com lists American Eagle, Aeropostale, and Foot Locker as the biggest gainers in the index. On Thursday, sales numbers from Costco came in softer than expected for the first time in 5 months. And after the close, Gap shares fell more than 5% on a sales decline in August.
Tyson sees perks from its acquisition of Hillshire Brands. Tyson expects a 10% goose to earnings. Tyson's $7 billion deal for Hillshire closed a week ago after a months-long bidding war with rival food company Pilgrim's Pride. Tyson shares closed at $37.39. Hillshire ended the day at $30.
Well, kids seem to be ditching Barbie for building blocks. Lego just became the world's largest toy company, beating out Barbie maker Mattel. Lego, based in Denmark, says sales jumped 15% in the first half of the year, thanks to the success of the box office hit, The Lego Movie.
We are very pleased with those set of results, not least because the growth that we're seeing in sales is consistent across the globe. So we're seeing the Americas, Europe, and Asia all up double digits in the first 6 months.
Back in July, Mattel reported a revenue drop due to a decline in Barbie sales. The stock traded last around $34.
Google is agreeing to refund parents millions of dollars that they lost while their children were playing games. Children playing Air Penguins on mobile devices were putting hundreds of dollars on their parents' credit cards without their parents' permission. The FTC says parents were unfairly billed. Google will pay $19 million to settle charges and move on.
On to the economic calendar for today. It's the non-farm payrolls for August, the unemployment rate, along with hourly earnings and average work week numbers. Still to come. Could Foot Locker be the right fit for a new owner? Plus, why investors are sinking money into Scotch. And a portfolio manager has tips on making it a September to remember.
Americans and their money is a hot topic with the Federal Reserve this week. According to the St. Louis Federal Reserve, American consumers are to blame for low inflation because of their willingness to hoard money. The Fed also faults its own policies for causing consumers to spend less. Americans are holding $2.1 trillion in savings. Banks have $2.8 trillion in reserve.
It's no secret on Wall Street, low interest rates set by the Fed are pushing investors to buy stocks to potentially get the best return on their money. However, September tends to be one of the more skittish trading months of the year. Joining us now by Skype, Dan Neiman. He's a portfolio manager of Neiman Funds. Good to have you on the show this morning.
And thanks for having me.
How is your fund performing this year?
Our large cap value fund is trailing the market. We're up about 6.5% year to date. One of the things we do as far as stocks go in large cap value is we buy all dividend paying stocks. We also use a conservative covered call option writing strategy that helps protect us on the downside while still participating in up markets. So when the market's up, over 160% in the last 5 years, we may lag that. But if the market starts to decline or we see a correction, we'll actually outpace the market in those times.
How can investors go about picking mutual funds, though, that will outperform the market? Because these are good times for the stock market.
These are good times. I feel like if someone's trying to chase the market and chase a hot stock or even chase a hot mutual fund, a lot of times they're going to be wrong. The best course of action if someone's looking for overall performance is obviously being either in the market itself, in the S&P 500 index or an ETF, or in a basket of mutual funds or a basket of stocks so that you don't miss the upside, but having a few conservative plays in that portfolio to help protect in down times.
Sometimes investors have issues with mutual funds because there are fees attached. So how does one get around that?
Well, you're never going to get away from fees as a whole because, of course, to do this, to be a portfolio manager, you need to make money in doing it. I think you have to look at total return and overall return, including fees. So you're comparing apples to apples.
I'm not a fan of those fees, but I do like your covered call strategy. Good to have you on the show this morning, Dan Neiman, portfolio manager of Neiman Funds.
Thank you, too.
Coming up, the shoe stock that one trader says has room to run. And in Traders Unplugged, the guys hit the bargain bin for stocks on the cheap. Ready to face the challenge of another trading day, Alan Nuckman and Scott Cheladay are here to battle it out in Traders Unplugged. Good morning, guys.
Morning.
Round number one, on the cheap. A number of homegrown stocks are said to be trading at inexpensive levels, such as Delta, Ford, and Whirlpool. What's your pick?
Well, this was a list that has a look at PE. So it's all about earnings. So if you're looking at the price to earnings ratio, if you look at the whole S&P is about 18 or 19, pretty low in historical standards. So we're at no bubble, my friend. The stock I like is not on the list.
Professor, answer the question.
British Petroleum has a PE of about 15.
There we go.
And it's distressed. Around 45 here, you can lean on 40.
I like Genworth. I think the chart looks good to the upside in the short term. And I like Tyson Chicken because I'm wearing a Chick-fil-A jacket.
Because you're a meat man.
Round number 2, mobile money. What's the best way to make money on mobile money payments?
I think that's going to be difficult, and I actually invested in one of the smart credit cards as well, and I think that there is a problem with the consumer really not getting behind it and not understanding it as well, and I think that also the failure for the Bitcoin to really stay in the headlines is another reason why this mobile payment system I think is going to be difficult, and I wouldn't play it at all. I think
Is it a security issue for a lot of people?
Well, it's got to be absolutely more now after the Apple breach, so I think that absolutely it's going to be a problem. They've got major headway. I'm staying away for right now.
My ways to play it is EWJ, the Japan fund. Japan, a third of the phone users use online payments through their phone, currency through their phone.
And
so
boy, oh boy,
that's
their economy is doing great.
The future EWJ is about another 16%
and the other two-thirds
higher.
don't pay at all.
It's trading between 10 and 12. That target's 14.
That's
EWJ.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Round number 3, Scotch Scratch. There's a bull market in single malts, and investors are bidding up prices in rare scotches. What would you rather do, invest in European stocks or drown your sorrows?
Well, in famous words, I'm going to say Scotch. I hate Scotch. I am not a Scotch man. As an elitist, as the elitist I am, I don't drink Scotch, so I really don't have any opinion.
Question number 4 about champagne, so he can partake.
But when it comes to investing and looking at Europe, I think the euro currency here at 127 is the midpoint for the last couple of years. I'd be leaning on this after this big sell-off.
I think you drown your sorrows. Europe's going to sell off even more. I think that we've really finally uncovered how bad they've got things over there. And another reason why you see some of these things.
Are you calling for the death of the eurozone again?
I'm continually calling for it.
Eventually,
yeah,
right?
because you think that they're 1.3 times better than we are. Is that what you believe in? You know what? You can move back. I've got a passport. You don't.
Here's your bonus round question for today. It's Friday, and for many Americans, it's payday. Try to choose the fake ticker symbol. Is it P-A-Y, pay, C-A-S-H, cash, M-O-N-Y, money, or C-H-E-K, check?
It's the money one.
Check.
Money is fake.
Check.
No, check is real.
4. Is it?
Yeah,
what is it?
It's real. Chesapeake.
Okay.
Check is fake.
CHK is Chesapeake.
Correct.
Oh, here we go. You know what? You confused them. Sorry.
First,
we're talking about pay.
Right after this.
Anyway.
James O'Malley of KeenOnTheMarket.com jumps into our show on this Friday to talk about Foot Locker. Good morning, James.
Good morning.
This stock has been oh so strong this year. What do you see in the charts?
Right, so the chart looks like a runaway train. The stock continues to make new highs, but I don't want to focus too much on the chart. What I want to look at is the rumors circulating around Foot Locker and the option activity that we've been seeing this week in the name. Now, starting on Tuesday night, we started to hear reports that Foot Locker might be a potential target by a consortium of private equity firms to be taken private with a price target of around $70. Now, that's a significant premium to the $57 level that the stock is trading at now. On Wednesday, we saw a lot of unusual option activity in the name. It traded almost 7 times its average daily option volume, with calls out trading puts by about 7 to 1. So that's very, very bullish, very unusual options activity. On Thursday, an analyst at Jefferies initiated coverage on Foot Locker with a price target of $66 and a strong buy rating. So a lot of very bullish things have been coming together here in Foot Locker, and I think that the stock is going to head higher, if not on a takeout offer, on just strong fundamentals and a strong chart. I'm long the name via October 60 calls, which are the same line that we've been seeing institutional money coming into all this week.
But we should mention at this point, any takeover possibility is just merely trader chatter at this point. You are using options because it's less of a risk in your trade, correct?
Right, absolutely. So none of this is confirmed yet. All of the takeover chatter is just rumor. However, when we do see rumors like this with follow-through trading activity, it does lead me to believe that there is a much better chance that it does happen. However, I do use the options to limit my downside, which is why I buy these October 60 calls. I know what my risk is, and I know what my reward can be.
Thanks, James.
Thank you.
That does it for this week. Coming up on Monday, find out why farmers are up to their ears in corn and what they intend to do this harvest season. From all of us at First Business, have a fantastic Friday.